Traditionalists say because Jesus chose only men as his apostles, men should still lead the church. They say they couldn't serve under a woman bishop. Dr. Williams warned the synod of the risks of alienating traditionalists.
In excluding or marginalising the position of the theological position of certain persons in the church, division is actually made more serious, not less. We're trying to give some ground for showing those who are in a minority that their views are taken with a degree of seriousness.
Dr. Williams' compromise would have allowed traditionalist parishes to bypass the control of women bishops and have guaranteed access to male alternatives. It was rejected by just half a dozen votes.
So far, we have, I believe, well over 3,000 women now in ministry within the church. We have made a difference. We cannot continue to have a situation where our church, which belongs to all of us, is simply restricted to men only.
The synod rejected Dr. Williams' pleas for compromise because it felt it would be creating in women second-class bishops. The vote was only so narrow because Dr. Williams put his own reputation on the line. But defeat for him could dent his authority, just when he needs it most. Dr. Williams has faced intense criticism since unconfirmed reports claimed he'd blocked the gay cleric Geoffrey John from becoming the Bishop of Southwark. It was an attempt to make Dr. John a bishop 7 years ago that began the church's split over homosexuality. The controversy brought an outspoken rebuke today from the Archbishop of York.
There has been propaganda and the resort to misleading opinions paraded as facts regarding a remarkable, gifted and much maligned Christian leader I call a dear friend and trusted colleague, one Raoul Williams. And I say enough is enough.
Amid the ruins of his failed attempt to foster unity, Dr. Williams made a lonely figure. His church is determined to have women bishops and will not be deflected. Robert Piggott, BBC News at the York Synod.
A Royal Marine killed in an explosion in Afghanistan has been named as David Charles Hart. The 23-year-old from 40 Commando died while on foot patrol on Thursday in Sangin in Helmand Province. His parents said they were immensely proud of his achievements. BP has begun its latest attempt to halt the massive oil leak in the Gulf of Mexico. The company's using underwater robots to replace a cap that was placed over the fractured wellhead last month. If successful, the flow of oil could be halted as early as next week. Now, with news of the British Grand Prix, the World Cup and the rest of the sport, it's over to Olly Foster. Hi there, Olly.
Hi, Riz. Thank you very much indeed. Hello there. There were mixed fortunes for the British drivers at Silverstone ahead of tomorrow's Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton qualified in fourth after what he described as the best lap of his career. His McLaren teammate and current world champion Jenson Button said his car was undrivable and he'll start in 14th place. Once again, the Red Bull team dominated qualifying with Sebastian Vettel taking pole position. Kevin Geary reports from Silverstone.
As ever at Silverstone, expectation levels were high of a British victory, but events today will have lowered them.
1-2 finish, Jenson number 1, Lewis number 2, every weekend. Love it.
Like all motorists, even Grand Prix drivers experience frustration with their cars. And the hissed intake of breath from the mechanic, it's the blown rear diffuser, Gov, never helps. So the McLarens of Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button had to abandon their version of the latest gizmo to their disadvantage. Both drivers had control problems, though Hamilton, despite the occasional diversion, at least remained competitive. Button, on the other hand, had nothing but frustration, as he told his team.
Really struggling with the rear of the car, got very, very low grip for the word go.
He wasn't even quick enough to make the final qualification session, and 14th on the grid is no place for a defending champion to start.
OK, Jenson, I'm afraid we haven't made it into Q3. I'm sorry about that.
This morning the car felt really good as well, you know. I personally think there's something wrong. I mean, the car was undrivable this afternoon as soon as I jumped in it. Yeah, that's it really.
Hamilton, though, will at least line up on the second row, qualifying fourth behind the Red Bulls of Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber and Fernando Alonso's Ferrari.
Well, hopes of a McLaren 1-2 on home soil are pretty much out of the window now. As for the Red Bulls, they're not so much eyeing a red rag as a checkered flag. Kevin Geary, BBC News, Silverstone.
There's just one more match to go at the World Cup, tomorrow's final. Tonight, Germany took on Uruguay in the third-place playoff. It clearly meant a lot to both sides, but just like 2006, when they hosted the tournament, Germany have finished third again. It finished 3-2 in Port Elizabeth. Sami Khedira with the winning goal for the Germans. So this time tomorrow, we should know who are the world champions, Spain or the Netherlands. An Englishman will referee the final at Johannesburg Soccer City as the 2010 tournament comes to a close. From South Africa, here's James Pearce.
The goals that took the Netherlands and Spain to the World Cup final.
That has got to be one of the great goals.
Xavi's corner. Puyol with a flying leap. Carlos Puyol scores for Spain.
This evening, the traditional eve of final routine. Training inside the stadium and then a press conference by both teams' coaches.
It's unbelievable. It's the most important match in my football life so far. It's quite something. Nobody has ever become world champion in the Netherlands. No Dutch player has become a world champion. So that in itself is quite special and extraordinary.
I think Spain has a very important final to play tomorrow against an opponent that also deserves to be here. And tomorrow's match will see two sides playing each other. We both play very pleasant football and we both deserve to be here.
There's been another team training today too. England's Howard Webb and his assistants. He spoke for the first time about the moment when he was asked to referee the final.
It was one of euphoria, really. So when the name was read out on Thursday night, we were absolutely ecstatic. We really were. It was the highlight of my refereeing career so far by some way.
South Africa has put on a great World Cup. So much work has gone into making sure that these magnificent venues are ready for the world's best players. Now it's up to the teams, Spain and the Netherlands, to give this tournament the finale it deserves. James Pearce, BBC News at Soccer City in Johannesburg.
England's cricketers have lost to Bangladesh for the first time in any form of the game, chasing 237 to win the second one-day international in Bristol. England came up 5 runs short. The series is now tied at 1-1 with 1 to play. Alex South reports.
It was all smiles down in the West Country, and when your record is played 120 against the opposition, you can understand why. Usually when Tamim Iqbal goes, so does the hopes of Bangladesh. They held on for a little bit longer than usual, but not by much. Imran Kay's 76 was a bright spot in another batting performance that failed to build on a good start. Ian Bell's innocuous fall equalled a broken metatarsal, leaving a hole in the batting order for this game and probably the Test series against Pakistan. And it looked pretty hard to fill as England collapsed. Only the slow-scoring Jonathan Trott remained, but he was running out of partners. As Jimmy Anderson went, Bangladesh thought it was all over, only for Ian Bell to limp to the crease and extend their long wait for a win. But it wasn't for long. Bangladesh making history with their first ever victory against England. Alex South, BBC News.
And that is all your sport, Riz.
Thanks very much, Ollie. And that's it from us this evening. From all of us here, a very good night to you.